I'm actually straining my Kefir grains right now. And they look like little kind of cauliflower rubbery things. And then I put the strained kefir in a jar for the second fermentation. And at this point, I make pretty big batches, so I make a gallon-sized jug. So I'm going to continue to strain these grains, which you can see sort of on these, on the wooden spoon. You want to use wooden utensils and plastic and glass so that the metals don't leach into the kefir grains. And I'll be back to strain more. So I'm going to pour more of the first ferment Kefir into the strainer, but it's pretty lively, so it splatters, so I shield it so Kefir doesn't go all over the place. And then I just continue the stirring and the straining process, which you can see that going into the container. And I'll just continue this down. Kind of looks like a slurry of yogurt. Probably a bad shot. So I'm just continuing to stir the grains. And the milk will, or not the milk, but it sort of looks like a yogurt thick mass with the Kefir grains in it. And I just continue to strain. So this takes a little while, so I'm gonna finish this up. And I like to keep a separate bowl so that I can put the strainer and the wooden spoon in a bowl, and so it doesn't drip on the countertop. So there's just a few little pieces of equipment that you need because I make such large batches that it's handy just to have something like this so that I can put this strainer inside and then pour the second ferment or the first ferment into the second ferment jar. So I'll be back to finish this. Another thing I like to do is to name the date on the bottle that this is in. And as you notice, there's stuff kind of stuck on the side. You want to make sure that you kind of get most of it off. You're going to use this jar for about a week. And then you can put it in a fresh jar. But the cultures in this jar will help seed the next fresh batch of Kefir that I make. So I'll be back. So now I have finished straining this whole jar of the first ferment of the Kefir grains. And they look like little, just like they say, they look like sort of little cauliflower grains. And they're kind of rubbery. And they multiply like crazy, so if you find that you start getting extra ones, I like to eat them. Or you can give them away to friends and they can make their own kefir, or Kefir, as I should say. And if you eat them, it's like a probiotic. They're sort of rubbery. That's what they look like. They're good. Sour. Rubbery. You probably think they taste weird in the beginning, but I like them. Anyway, so I'm going to take this first ferment and polish off the jar. And so that's it there. And then I'm just going to wipe down the sides in case there's anything on the outside of it. And I'm going to get a clean, damp cloth, and I'll be back with filtered water. So on the first ferment jar, which I have labeled as to the day that I changed the jar, so it doesn't go too long. I've never had one go bad, but you just want to make sure that you're not going too long. And I'm cleaning the edges because it splatters and you've got the area that it poured out of. And I like to make sure that where the milk line, when I replace this jar with the kefir grains, I want to make sure that that it's clean up to where I put the filter. And all this stuff on the jar, on the side of the jar, is good. It's actually part of the first culture. And so I'm going to put the grains back in. And as the batches continue to grow more cultures, like I say, I just eat them because pretty soon it just gets to be so many cultures. Like, well, what am I going to do with this stuff? Well, like I say, you can eat them. Well, that's what I do. And then I don't touch what I've touched the kefir with on the outside. I just make sure the jar is pretty clean on the edges so that, I don't know, like I say, I've never had anything go bad, but I just like it to be orderly and neat, if that makes any kind of sense. So I'm going to be right back with the milk. So now I'm back with the milk. I like to use fresh, raw milk. And you can use homogenized milk, but you get way more probiotics out of the raw. And it's a lot better for you, and that's just what I like to use, so that's what I do. And in Salt Lake, we have a great farmer called Real Foods in Redmond Farms, and they make their own raw milk. So that's what I do. So I shake it up and mix it up. And then, so that the milk, because the milk and the milk separates, so you get the cream and the milk underneath it. And so anyway, I want that to be distributed pretty evenly. And I get it, they don't even make raw skim milk, which is kind of not very good for you anyway. But this is going into the jar with the kefir grains. And I'm going to fill it right up to about where the last one was, where you can see that I'm kneading it. And I have a smaller jar that I'll use the rest of this, or my husband will drink it. And so now I've got my second ferment and my first. And I will date the second ferment. And then you take, I like to use a coffee filter and cover your projects here. And I just have it going all the time. And then cover the second ferment, which you can see is lower than the first ferment because now the culture grains are out of it. So then I put the second ferment which I will label later, not to waste more time, and put this one in the cupboard and this one in the cupboard, and then it'll probably be ready because it's warmer in the house now that the weather's warmer. I will put this in, I'll process this probably tonight or in the morning tomorrow, really early. And this will sit for another 24 hours. And I'll keep using this jar to do the first ferment, do the second ferment, and then bottle it. So that's kind of the process. So now I've dated my second ferment jar with today's date on it, so I know that this is the new one. And then I bottle my kefir. And this is what the finished product looks like in the jar. I just put it in these nice handy bottles, and it'll last me most of the morning when I'm working and busy. And I blend it with a hand stick blender, but I don't have a second ferment because I've been doing cheese lately. So I'll show you that on the next video. But anyway, thanks for watching and have a great day.